Take it away.
Well, one thing you can never say is that Scandinavian conferences introduce you with too much detail. It's like, we got a guy here and he's talking now, and you're like, oh, okay. Fair enough. Like, okay then. It's been long 2 days. Your brains are slightly overloaded, and mine as well. So I wanted to write a talk for you to make you think a bit about what's going on with the web right now and what's going on with web technologies right now. I'm not going to go into a lot of like live code or code examples, because I always find that more frustrating than anything else when you're sitting in the audience, not on your computer, and you're not coding along, and everybody's like, let's go to the command line and show you how awesome I am. And you just go home and you're like, what did I just do? I just had no idea of repeating what's going on here. So that's what workshops are for. But I want to talk especially about what progressive web apps are, and what kind of good opportunity and great opportunity they present right now in all of our ideas that we want to do here. Also, while I'm doing that, there's going to be a copious amount of copyright infringement in the Star Wars universe. So yeah, that's that. I'm Chris Heilmann. I'm Code Poet on Twitter, and I've been a web developer for 18, 19 years now. And I started with a little laptop and DOS edit and the download of the HTML 2.0 spec or something. And then I started typing things in and opened that in Netscape 3 and was excited that I can make things align to the left and right, these kind of things, and sometimes not, most of the time not. But it was good for me to basically out of a sudden realize like there's something new. I used to do games on Commodore 64, Amiga, PlayStation 1, and all these kind of like platforms that were always closed, and like sooner or later you had to buy an SDK, or you had to get to a company and get allowance to do something, or you had to crack the thing and basically do something else. And with the web I realized like, oh my god, this is cool. Before I went into IT, I was a radio journalist, so I did newscasting in the mornings, and I realized when the web came out, when I found it in 1996, I'm like, this is amazing. I can be worldwide distributing and writing and reading other people's stuff and remixing other people's stuff without having to spend money. Whereas like in radio or television, you had every second has to be paid for, and radio only reaches a certain amount of kilometers, so you never know who's going to listen to it, only the people in your area. So if you want to go nationwide, you have to do something really cool, and if you want to go on nationwide television, you have to commit a crime or something. And with the web, it was much, much easier. And I'm like, this is cool. I want to support this. So I basically had to go to hospital for a slight operation, took a laptop with me and taught myself HTML there, and started my career in the web as it is right now. And I realized that the web is the most progressive media out there. All of a sudden, it broke the whole concept of like, hey, you're sitting in front of a TV and you look at what we give you, and if it's 50 ads, tough luck. You probably want to go watch the video again or watch the TV again afterwards. Whereas with the web, it was a read and write medium. It was a bring your own content, bring your own ideas, bring your own creativity kind of medium. And I was like, this is groundbreaking, and I want to be part of this. And I was, and I'm happy that I then went to Yahoo and I went to Mozilla, and I did like McDonald's website, visitbritain.com, 170,000 pages in 72 languages, and all these fun things that basically, I should be really great, but luckily I wasn't, because I'm a redhead. The web is for everyone, and it's basically, you have no right to tell an end user that they need to download a certain browser, or that they have to have a faster phone or a better connection to access your things. People come to you and they are your audience. They are the people who bring you money. We are here as a transportation system from knowledge to people and people's knowledge back to the systems. We are here to empower people, to make them creative on the web, and to allow them to let their voice heard. For us, it's like, yeah, boring, whatever, ad blockers, I'm just Netflix, I just don't want to use the web anymore. For some people, it's the only way out of their country. It's the only way they can listen to political statements that are not colored by their country. They're not censored by the people in the government. They can actually go through the web or go through hoops to go on the web and learn about the world. I live in England, and with Brexit that may happen as well, so I don't know yet. But what I find, for example, very interesting is that people in countries and in universities where certain websites are, for example, blocked, they use Google Translate to translate the site from English to English to get around that issue, because the Google Translate server is in California, so it looks like it's an American website going to that other website. So they're breaking the web, or they're getting to content on the web and breaking the stupidity of like geofencing that way. It was really, really nice. Now, this was at the Olympics in London where Tim Berners-Lee, Timbo, entered "This is for everybody" and explained to everyone that the web that he invented is for everyone. He typed that into Twitter, which is kind of bizarre, seeing that that's a closed system that could be shut down anytime. But let's not dwell on that too much, but it was a nice picture. Now, the web itself had a lot of good features, a lot of really, really powerful features that we keep forgetting when we try to actually access it from a computer science point of view, or from a graphics kind of view. To me, it's a medium. It's distributed. Like, what you put on the web will survive and will go somewhere, and people can download it, and people can print it out and paint with like crayons on it or whatever. You cannot protect your stuff if you want to have it distributed as well. It was great when you had, like, in 1998, you had like photographers, like, how can I put my stuff on the web and people not download it? I'm like, well, put it on a memory stick, leave it in your desk. It's the only way you can do that. Because as soon as it's on a screen, I can take a picture of the screen if I wanted to. I could take the monitor and put them on a photocopier. You know, I could do whatever. It's like there's so many ways to actually get your data there. But you want it distributed. I have so many old websites that basically are not online anymore, or the companies changed completely. And I go to Wayback Machine of archive.org, and I can see the website that I built in 1997. And then I look at the source code and I get drunk. And and I wonder what I've been doing, but we had to jump through stupid hoops back then to do things. It's independent of hardware, software, and ability. You cannot expect your end users to be able to see. You cannot expect your end users to understand language in all its nuances. You know, like trying sarcasm online, good luck. You know, it's not that easy. Using puns in your navigation, pop references, influences of your country, not a good idea. Think about to reach as many people as possible. I worked with a company in England, an insurance company, that changed their login form from very complex English to very simple English, and from 7 steps to 3 steps, and they doubled their users in that month, just by making it easier for people to access their things. And it's based on open, documented, and agreed protocols and technologies. HTTP, TCP/IP, HTML as the structure of your documents, and then later on others. And this is important. They're open, documented, and agreed on. This gives you a base to start from. This is not like, let's make it happen and hope it doesn't break. So the web with these standards had a reliability to it. There's a resilience and there's a sturdiness in the web itself that we should still benefit from, and we shouldn't break it just because of convenience for us as developers. There's a trustworthiness as well, like the amount of people that that quote Wikipedia on other pages on Wikipedia. As soon as it's online, people like, okay, this is cool, this is online, I prove it, it has been archived, it will be there for the future. And it's a home base to explore from. We can take these technologies and build upon them with better technologies, faster, cooler technologies, more dynamic technologies, to do something really, really nice. That's where the web came in. And the web, to me, as I said, is a medium. And it's not only connected documents, it's connected images, it's connected videos, it's connected Flash games even. They were made accessible at one time, but we forgot about it as well. So the web is non-intrusive or aggressive. It's there when you need it. You go, you type that URL in, you go to the website, look at kittens in uniforms or whatever, and happily go somewhere else. When you need it, you can have it. It's not telling you like, hey, by the way, please go to the App Store, download this thing, install that one. Oh, you need a credit card. I know I'm free, but you still need a credit card to enter this thing. And it doesn't make you to jump through hoops to get to content. It's just there. It's not in your face. It doesn't tell you every 2 seconds, please download a new version of me, please do something different with me. It's built for human interaction and as a read and write medium. HTTP has like get, of course, post, of course, but it also has put. And we don't use it for much. We write other things to do uploads. HTTP put is a really cool thing to do as well. We have delete as well in HTTP, which is not used much. And we have like all kind of like finger protocols and these kind of things. And it's open for professionals and enthusiasts alike. When I started as a web developer, you know, you had all these proper developers, you know, Java people with beards like that and like trousers up to here. And coming up to you and like, oh, well, you don't even know the stack and you didn't even define your variables. You're not a coder, you're just a random person. The web will never touch, will never be good, and it will never be a thing. And it became a thing because it's open to enthusiasts and to other people. We can make fun of things like GeoCities, but it enabled millions of people to put a little website out there and have something on the web, have their voice on the web, have their family on the web, have their enthusiasm for something on the web. There's nothing you can't find on the web. You know, like the other day I was looking at GoldenEye, the James Bond movie, and I was like, what is that cool train? You know, that Russian train that was like, and I'm like, okay, cool. The web should know about this. And I found this like intrinsic model of it, how it was done, how somebody built the model of that train, and then also from which train it was made, where it was shot, which was the director, which track it was done in England, and it was just every detail. I'm like, nobody pays you for that. But it's cool to see these kind of things, and these are enthusiasts. The link is what makes the web. The link is I click on something, I go somewhere else. Or I click on something, I load the data from the thing from somewhere else and stay in the same page. That's what we called AJAX. Before that, we used iframes, we used all kinds of things to stay on the same document, to not have a reload. And it's like the Force in Star Wars. It's basically, it is the thing that makes the web. Don't break the link. The link is the distribution model and the access to content out there. And it's genius in its simplicity. It's very easy to do. And it was so scary for people to not understand that, like, you're not the most important thing on the web. You're part of the web. So whenever you had clients like, yeah, well, we want to link to others, but we don't want them to leave the page. What do? You're like, don't link to others. It's like, you know, it's like if they go to the other side and have a good experience there, they have you in the back of their head that it was your side to send them there. You're part of a community. You're part of a distributed model. You're not part of like, and I take all these people and keep them there. That's why we had pop-ups. That's why we have like frames and all these kind of things. It was horrible, and they still are. And sadly enough, we still have pop-ups from time to time. The web will always be there because its resilience, its simplicity is really impossible to break. Okay, there is a way, there's 9 people, I think, worldwide that have access to the main nodes of the web servers, so they could shut it down if they all became crazy at one moment or something. But it's really a distributed model with lots of caching that will be there. The problem is we built terrible things at the beginning because browsers were shit. We basically had to do like table layouts and frame sets and pop-ups that talk to each other. And what we built for people was not fun. It was just Word documents with a bit of forms in it. And every time you clicked it, reloaded, took ages. And you hoped everything worked out. Bad validation, no immediate validation of a form field. It was fun when yesterday, when Scott Hanselman was talking about form validation, that JavaScript was needed for that. Nowadays, we just put required on an input element in HTML. And the browser, if it's empty, will not send off the form. You don't need JavaScript for that. We put that in the new standards. So when we realized that we built terrible things because we had to jump through hoops to make every browser happy, because Netscape 4 was different to Opera 3, was different to Internet Explorer 4, was different to whatever other browser was out there at that moment, we realized we needed standards, and that's where the web standards movement started. That's where we have the HTML specification, we had the CSS spec later on, we have all these standards that we built. And standard development was never about limiting you and your developer as a developer. It was about making your job easier. It made your code predictable that it will work in the next version and in an old version as well. Nobody can stop people from using IE5 to go online. They should get something. They should get nothing beautiful. They should get something that works, which is HTML with a bit of CSS. The rest don't bother taking beautiful interfaces and giving it to Internet Explorer 5, 6 users. They're not used to that. You just confuse them. You know, nothing fancy. But standards-based development will never bite you in the lower backside in the future because you based it on something that is so resilient and so fixed that it works. And of course, when you do something like that, then we become arrogant and we become like, there was fighting of like the web standards people. You people who don't follow web standards shouldn't be on the web. You're terrible people, and it's like, please go away. And the other's like, well, I don't really care about your standards. And it's never an absolute. Standards are there to make our life easier. It's pretty cool to be able to have a screwdriver and know I can do a screw and open it. And not like, okay, this screw has like 5 prongs, this has 2 prongs. Please buy 600 different screwdrivers. Web standards are there to make our job easier and not to hit people over the head with them and tell them like they're doing it wrong if they're not following them completely, because only a Sith deals in absolutes, which is an absolute statement, but let's not question the script writing of George Lucas, because he obviously knows what to do. Rabbits stopping in poop. And web developers became too sure of themselves and basically said, like, you know what, that Flash thing, it's going to die. You know, like other things, we're going to live forever just following this HTML and CSS thing, and we make just the websites prettier and put like good images in there, and that was that. And then, of course, some developers started break off the group and say, like, you know what? We have JavaScript. And JavaScript allows me to do really cool stuff. I'm giving a talk tomorrow at Microsoft here at a meetup about how JavaScript is not evil, so that's going to be interesting as well. And they started doing everything with JavaScript because then it gives you control over every little thing. You don't have any difference between browsers anymore if you build the interface with JavaScript and you resize it pixel perfect and these kind of things. And people started doing that. And JavaScript became this like tool to do everything with, because you can do everything with it in the web stack. You can generate CSS, you can generate HTML, and of course you can write JavaScript with JavaScript and make everything interact with each other. And the cool thing for you as a developer is like you're in control. You have like a debugging environment. Well, back then it was alert, basically. And always fun when you did it in a loop and you're sitting there with your enter button 600 times. But you know what happened, whereas like with HTML and CSS, you always have to trust the browser to do it right, and you don't even have a call stack when something went wrong. And then you see things like that, whereas an ahref with a hash, with this nothing. Hash normally points to a target in the page. If you use it like that, great. If you use it like this, you have not understood the web, and you have not understood what a link is. Because a link that goes nowhere and just fires off a JavaScript should be a button. This is what the button element was invented for. Instead of making broken links that don't point anywhere, if we really have functionality that only should be available with JavaScript, we should do it as a button. If we can do it as a link, do it as a link. Put a click handler on that, override it, don't follow it, load it with Ajax or whatever you want to do in the background with your routers and whatever. Then, of course, you got people who are just utterly evil that use JavaScript void 0. This shows you have no idea what you're doing. You just copied and pasted it from somewhere. It's like, as developers, we're lazy. I'm lazy. I like to type less, and I like to type things that make sense. How can you write JavaScript void 0 and knowing you just wrote a lot of code that does nothing? Why would you do this to yourself and to your end users? A link that's not a link, I cannot right-click, I cannot download, I cannot follow, I cannot bookmark. This is terrible. Don't do that. JavaScript is not fault-tolerant. CSS and HTML are both fault-tolerant. This means if something goes wrong, the browser tries to fix it for you. You don't close your p tag, the browser closes the p tag for you. You try to put a span inside it, a div inside a span, so a block level element inside an inline element. It moves the div outside the span and renders them one after the other. CSS, if a line is not understood by the browser goes meh and goes to the next line. Maybe something cool there. I'm gonna keep rendering there. You know, one line of JavaScript error, oh my God, God has forsaken us, we're all dying, it's like I'm not playing with you anymore, and the JavaScript parser goes in the corner and starts scowling at you and not talking to you anymore. Which is just the way JavaScript is built as a just-in-time compilation language, you cannot have something that just randomly inserts stuff for you. It's not a good idea. But it's always important to understand this, that as soon as you make your stuff dependent on JavaScript, it's up to you to make it defensive. It's up to you to make it safe. And there's no, I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. The case that Scott talked about as well with JavaScript turned off is a straw man. JavaScript turned off does not exist. It's only people who want to hate themselves and who want to break things. It's like the people who turn off JavaScript on your websites are spam bots. Other people have JavaScript enabled because it is a great thing for the web and we can do great things with it. But we have to remember that every download of the web can break. If you have one JavaScript relying on another JavaScript, relying on another JavaScript without testing that they have been loaded, you will have a bad time. You will have problems with that. Other than that, like try to turn off JavaScript in modern browsers. We made it really hard for you. So nobody can tell me, oh, I accidentally turned off JavaScript, you know. Oh, I accidentally just broke into your house. Seldom, strange. And a lot can go wrong on the way. And that's where if statements come in. It's as simple as that. If this thing is available, use it. If the river is deep enough, jump into it. Don't jump into it and hope. It's not a good idea. We might never be aware that there's an issue because our environment is not our end user's environment. They have JavaScript errors that we don't have. That's why I always find it funny when people are like, why aren't all browsers on all platforms? And I'm like, well, if you have a Chrome error on Windows, debugging it with Chrome on a Mac is probably a stupid idea because you will not run into the same issue. It's OS and browser normally that causes issues together. So with JavaScript, we built a lot of stuff and we made things much more complex, but we realized that people need to use JavaScript. We got to do something about it. So we started to actually think about what can we build large with JavaScript? How can we scale JavaScript and how can we make JavaScript more reliable the way we actually made the others reliable? And we called that unobtrusive JavaScript. I wrote a self-training course in 2002 or something about this. And later on we called it DOM scripting. That's when I wrote my book in 2006 about it. It's basically like, don't rely on random stuff, test before you do. If you have HTML and CSS that is dependent on JavaScript, write it with JavaScript. Don't put it in the page and make it be an empty button that doesn't do anything. And then we started, JavaScript is standardized as well. And we're like, okay, we had the DOM of Internet Explorer, and we had the DOM of Netscape. Document layers, document all, and we had to always do like if document layers this, if document all that, or bad people did like if navigator index of so-and-so is browser, never ever do that. Browsers are liars. The user agent is a pack of lies. It does no information in there for you that is useful. Because I can turn any browser into any other browser in the user agent. My favorite is when we got Firefox 10 out, and people all gave us the CSS and JavaScript for Firefox 1 because they only tested for one digit in the browser name. These kind of things. Browser sniffing is the root of all evil. Think about just the word sniffing is dirty. Don't do that. But we standardized on best practices in JavaScript and said, like, you know what? Here is how to write JavaScript the right way. And here's how to have the DOM1 specification, the DOM2 specification, document get element by ID, document get elements by tag name. We have all these cool features that you can now interact with a document without having to resort to document write and stuff like that. Of course, when you do that and you make it an absolute again, then people are like, you know what, sod it. You old people of the web wanting to fix things for old browsers, I don't care, I use jQuery. You know, the Ajax libraries, jQuery, Prototype, MooTools, MochiKit. I used to write for Ajaxian. We had like 517 in one time. And they all made our lives easier. Write less, achieve more. Which is a nice thing, but there's a lot of magic going on. And especially when error handling is silent and I don't know what happened, that's bad. That to me is not a safe thing to work. I mean, you could safely say that jQuery made the web what it is right now. And a lot of what went into the specifications of HTML5 and newer JavaScript came from jQuery as well. But a lot of people just basically like, let's release, we're going to fix it later. Fix it later is the biggest lie on this planet, just after I read the terms and conditions. You never get time to fix something later. Stack Overflow copy and paste is my favorite. I love that. I coined the term full Stack Overflow developer, where people just copy and paste random things and hope it works, change some numbers around, and then when it doesn't work, complain that browsers are crap and JavaScript is not good. But we are in that community right now. We're not taking the language serious. We just like make it work, make it quick. The front end is not necessary. It's not a big thing. And that's why the average website is 2.2 megabyte. Because we put fix on top of fix, on top of library, on top of abstraction, on top of something else. And we're like, oh, you need to start with this library. Before that, you don't know how to click a button. And you're like, there's a standard for that, which is one line of code. Like, yeah, but it doesn't work in Internet Explorer 5.5 on a full moon when you got green hair and whatever. And like, who cares? You know? Then don't rely on that click. Make it a link and enhance it later on. But that this average website is 2.2 meg is ridiculous. This is just crazy if you think about it. And market forces, of course, bit us in the back because we're like, we made the web too slow. We made this web too big. We made the web annoying. Pop-up windows, all kind of slowing things down when I'm scrolling. Like, we put a lot of interface in people's ways. And that's when the mobile web came out, and it became really weird for us because it was a step back. We had these cool new machines that could have lots of JavaScript running, everything was smooth, and then all of a sudden mobiles came out. And it was a throwback to the web of old when it comes to web technologies. It was small screens, bad connectivity, and unreliable browser support. You have no idea which browser was on that phone, and a lot of times the browser was basically hardwired to the phone. There was not even a new way of upgrading that browser ever, which is like screaming, please turn me into a zombie in your botnet to me. Constantly changing conditions. I'm connected, I'm not connected. Oh, my battery is empty. Oh, there's another thing coming in. Oh, it's taken away from my browser. It's not like people stand glued in front of your browser like they did on a desktop. Hardwired browser and hardware with unpredictable upgrades, like it might get the new version of Android maybe sometime, or not. And it will be like, it fascinates me, for example, that I can't get Kindle on an older iOS device, but I can get Kindle on an old BlackBerry. It's a PDF reader, for Christ's sake. I shouldn't have a problem like that. And that's where apps came in. And apps were beating us around the head of the web quite heavily. Because people said, like, okay, the web, HTML5, will never be good enough on mobile devices, will never be good as native. Look how buttery smooth native apps are. Look how great it is to actually interact with them, how much fun it is. And the web's just terrible. And out of a sudden, we didn't have any links any longer. An app was something you had to go to the supermarket or the app store, download it after you logged in, after you gave your credit card details, after you gave your soul away, and gave half your bank account, and then you basically could use that thing. They didn't have links. The distribution model was taken away from us. The democratized thing that is the web was taken away from us. And of course, the people of the web were like, oh my God, it's all over. We're made to suffer. And we're doomed, and it's probably, I'm going to the goat farming now or do some other stuff because it's like over. Because mobile and native is going to eat the world, and native will never be matched by web technology. And I think the ability to control the distribution and update cycles is kind of cool, and people very much jumped on it because it goes back to the terrible thing that got us in the state that we're in right now, which is inbuilt obsolescence. In the 1950s, people realized building things that last long is a shit idea if you want to make money. So we break things. We make sure that things break quickly. A website you cannot sell. You cannot say, there's a new version of the website, please pay $5 to go to that one. It just doesn't work. With an app, totally. Like, hey, you want a Kindle, you have to buy a new $600 phone. This is what the people that want to make money with software really loved, because out of a sudden, like, we had CD-ROMs, and when CD-ROMs got scratched, you had to buy a new CD-ROM. An app was the same thing. I gave a TED talk about this 2 years ago, and I'm really smug that it actually turned out to be, I was saying the right things for change. But it was just, people loved it because we made software a perishable product, and we made software a system that I can take away from the user again. And that is, to me, completely turning the idea of the web around. The distributed model of everybody can take part became out of a sudden a specialist case again. You want to start building for iOS, you better download 6 meg of Xcode, 6 gig of Xcode. And if you're in India on a 56K connection, you probably wait until the next 5 years before you can start coding. The web will be with you always. We will survive this, is what I said. We will actually match what native is doing, and we will be better. And that's when mobile web apps came in. And this is when we started packaging HTML5 and CSS and JavaScript into zip files, gave it a manifest file, put it in our own marketplaces and asked you to download it there. We basically tried to match native in its own powers, in its own benefits, rather than just replacing with something that wasn't there. So it really did not work. It was like all of those were doomed. I worked on Firefox OS for 2 years. WebOS failed. BlackBerry had its own HTML5 format. All of these things basically tried to do exactly the same things that native did, except with lesser technology for that use case. So it was not making sense at all. And so people looking at people like me, like, well, you said HTML5 is good. I still cannot do it on iOS. I still cannot do it there. I still cannot do it there. What do we do now? And I'm like, okay, let's wait. You know, weird, but let's wait. This can only implode in itself. The way a whole generation of us is used to be able to access content, is used to be able to play a game, discard it, and go back again after we bookmarked it. It cannot be that out of a sudden software becomes something that is perishable, like flowers or fruit. And the app honeymoon period is completely over. If you think you're going to make money with a native application, think again. Because you have to be in the 0.2% of the main market, featured on the main market page, or else nobody will friggin' find you. And there is research, there's numbers to prove all that, and it's because people are not using apps any longer. They realized it's friggin' annoying to have 10,000 things on my phone that keep telling me, please use me, please use me, please use me. It makes much more sense to just stay inside Facebook or WhatsApp and talk with my friends there, and from time to time go into the browser and say, like, what's the weather in Germany? And Google gives me the answer, rather than download the weather app. Or most of the apps that you need today come already with the phone pre-installed. The more you tighten the grip, the more initial users would go through your fingers. If you go to a marketplace right now, 1,000 users interested in your app. 800 of them will go to the App Store. They're just like, no, I'm not going to the App Store again. This is going to tell me then my other apps need upgrading. I don't want to go there. Your app is found by 640 people because they probably have to fight all the other spam apps that like, oh, talking dog, talking elephant, talking Trump, whatever. Click install, 512 users, accept the permissions because every app wants to have every permission on my phone. Like, hey, I'm a puzzle game. I probably should be able to access your credit card, right? Download and wait. Of course, all apps are huge, and they actually take a lot of time to download. 328 users, 262 users. You lose a fifth of all the users just by going through the closed market model. And then, of course, as soon as you have them, every time I go back on wireless, 37 of apps on my phone tell me I want to get a new version. I haven't used these things in months. But why do they need a new version if I haven't even started them? That makes no sense to me. But it's always like, oh, please download me, it's all good. Google Drive, what the hell? And then you go, I was in Germany the other day and I tried to take Uber, and Uber is of course evil and everybody hates it there, so they make their own app called My Taxi. Cool, I don't have a data plan in Germany, so I basically downloaded it at home on my wireless to go and actually have it then in Germany, right? This item is not available in your country. So hey, we don't like Uber, so you probably should be in our country to download our app before you use it. What? Makes no sense, but this is how we are. The web beats that all the time, on demand, worldwide, everywhere, without having to go through these downloads, without going through the marketplace and all these things. Of course, people are like, it's not going to work. Why would it work this time when the first time we packaged HTML5 apps, they were terrible and nobody wanted to use them? Well, we have better technology. Mobile browsers are much better now. Android has understood that you cannot have a browser that's very outdated in an old version. We have to have a way to make the web view and the inbuilt browser upgradable for everybody. Web views of the OS are updating independently instead of just having to wait for the new operating system to get a new browser. A lot of the hardware access APIs are standardized. A lot of the things that we had to use native for because HTML was not allowed to access an accelerometer, a camera. It was not allowed to store things into a database. All these things are now in browsers and on mobile devices. And funnily enough, mobile devices upgrade much faster than other hardware does. Although the pricing is almost the same, but people are happier to get a new phone. And most phone contracts give you a new phone after like a year, rather than like you stick with the old one. Battery status is available in JavaScript. Camera access is an input element if you want to use it. Just accept image, capture camera, and the rest is done by the operating system for you. Device motion and orientation is available. Files cannot be only uploaded or like only be posted, but can be read binary byte by byte. And I showed earlier how you can use that, for example, to generate previews of images on the fly. File transfer is now a byte transfer, so you can do proper upload bars like you used to do in Flash, rather than just having the browser die on you for 5 minutes and then hopefully it uploaded it. Media capture, you can record a video in the browser, you can record audio in the browser. Network information, you know if it's a wireless, if it's a mobile, or if it's online or offline. And vibration, you can make the mobile phone vibrate as well, which is sometimes really cool for, like, for example, turn left for 1 vibration, turn right for 2 vibrations. This used to be called Web Vibrator, but we had to rename it. So all the APIs that we used PhoneGap for, which is like a stopgap solution, hence the name PhoneGap, that converted HTML into native code, all of those, except for contacts, are available now across the platforms that we have on mobile right now. Contacts, probably a good idea not to be made fully available. Network access and notifications are very much available as well. And notifications are the cool thing that everybody wants. That makes your app sticky. Tell people that something happened in your app to bring them back to your app. Please don't overuse this. It shouldn't become the new pop-up window. It's good if your notification just says something happened, you're terrible. If your notification says like this happened, do you want to answer quickly? Then you're good. You know, use it for what it's for the end user, not against them. Service worker is the most interesting thing that's happening right now, and please look it up. There's lots of information out there already. A service worker, in essence, is a scriptable HTTP router in JavaScript. So you can make things go offline. You can do notifications. You can upgrade caches. You can, instead of putting things in an app cache where we could allow things to be offline, we can now name the cache. We can purge them. We can check what's in the cache. So our network resilience against bad network connections is much, much better with Service Worker. And it's supported now. iOS are the only ones that are not really into it yet. We have it on our plan for Edge as well. But on Android and on mobile, Mozilla and Chrome, it's all over the place. Actually, I'm going in 3 days. I'll be in Seattle, where we have a whole workshop on PWAs, which is about Service Worker. It's an own worker thread in the background, in an own thread, not slowing down the browser, that can talk and make your application available offline. And that's what progressive web apps are about. It's an HTML document. It could be a JavaScript document. It's what you put on the web, and it gets the extra functionality with the service worker to be offline, to be installable, and to end up on your home screen as an icon. The end user doesn't need to know that the thing is not a native app. It just performs just like a native app would. And the better way of dealing with it is because the link is the distribution model. So by the time you look at the app for the first time, you already have it installed. You don't have to go to an extra install process. You don't lose your users by sending them to an app store. So they work offline. They can hibernate and notify on change, so they don't need to be open all the time just to get new data, for example. They're progressively enhanced, meaning that if the browser doesn't support it, you still have a proper HTML5 application in there. It just doesn't do the cool stuff. It's an enhancement, not a replacement. And it's more functionality on subsequent visits. That's how Google defines it. So the first time you go to a page, it caches it in the background. The second time you go to the page, or like 6th, 7th, I don't know what they're doing right now, it basically tells you, hey, I'm offline available by now because you're coming to me all the time. And then the next time, it's like, hey, do you want me as an icon on your home page? It's okay if you don't need to. But I'm available now. You can use me offline. I don't need to load anything from the internet anymore. Have fun with me. And the link is the distribution model. You send your app to other people by sending them the link. And how cool is that? That could go in your emails. That could go in a text messaging client. That could go in anywhere, really. All the benefits of native apps and none of the sluggish distribution issues. None of these, like losing 1/5 of your end users just because you put barriers in their way. It's a natural evolution of web content into the mobile web form factor. Instead of simulating the native form factor with HTML5 technology. And it's a big opportunity to crack the closed distribution model, which is rusting and falling apart at the seams already, and good riddance. I'm really, really unhappy about people forcing me to buy a new phone just to play a game. Flipkart in India, that now got bought, I think, by somebody, by Walmart. Walmart is trying to buy into them. Did a progressive web app, and they found 3 times more time spent on site. And that's not waiting, that's interacting with the site and buying stuff. 40% higher re-engagement because of notifications. 70% greater conversion from home screen. So instead of going and having to type in a URL in a browser on a mobile phone is never fun. Having an icon to click it is fun. And 3 times lower data usage because it uses JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. It's a lot smaller than a native application. So end users don't have to download 50 meg just to see a dancing rabbit or whatever. So look into this. This is the future of the web right now. If you care about the web. If you don't care about the web, don't poo-poo it. At least look at it. At least give it a chance, because I don't care about what I get paid for. I want to keep this distributed open model, this democratic way of getting information disseminated, open and available for everybody. Any web product can become a progressive web app. All you have to do is add a service worker, which is a JavaScript file, a manifest file, and linking to the cache to cache your stuff in there. You reap the rewards of simple maintenance and upgrade paths, and the form factor mobile users expect. People expect an app. They don't want to type in your username all the time, your URL all the time. They expect an icon to click on. They expect it to be full screen. They expect it to basically have nice buttons and all these kind of things. It makes sense to clean up before you go there. Don't just put a service worker on your current bloated website. That will not make happy users out there. So take a look at what we have right now. caniuse.com is a great website telling you what browsers are supporting right now. And you will find that most of the browsers you care about are in the green, and you can use the cool new stuff that you get promised there. Simplify your interfaces. Don't make it complex for people to use your stuff. Users are impatient and on flaky connections. We have a terrible temper on phones. We're much better on desktop. Reconsider the ways you build and deploy your products. A lot can be automated. A lot of, we talked earlier in my other talk about image optimization that can be automated in a build process. Don't try to hard code everything and just put 12 libraries in there because you used to put them in there. We have got document query selector now, which is almost as good as the dollar of jQuery, and that's supported in every browser. You don't need that any longer. Progressive web apps are not a replacement of what we do now. They're a progressive way to enhance what we already do. As I said, a progressive web app, when you go to it for the first time, you already installed it. You already have the thing on your device. You just need to get that extra icon, and you need to get the notification that it now works offline. It's a merger of the app space and the web space, and you can benefit from both. End users expect apps. Web is really cool to distribute and easy to upgrade. And that's all I had, so thanks very much.